And then brings us to the point of the show where we go. Let's go right after that. Problems we should do for me, for you, Savage. Want me to do number 2?
What?
Did you say answer or do it?
Yeah, how to do it.
Number 2. Last year showed them use 50 feet of fencing to enclose a garden with an area of 150 feet squared. This year showed them plans to use 100 feet of fencing to enclose a garden with a similar shape. What will be the area of the garden?
Oh, wait.
Did you draw some pictures?
Yeah, I forgot to double the,
Well, basically, they're telling you you have 2 similar rectangles because it is the same, similar shape. It's a similar shape, so you have this. The first rectangle used 50 feet, right? Oh, area of 50 feet squared. 150 feet squared. Oh, the perimeter is 50 feet. The next rectangle, it said he plans to use 100 feet of fencing, which means the rectangle is going to be, what's a perimeter of 100 feet, right? The key to this is not really that you have to find out all the dimensions, it is just that you have to figure out what the scale factor is. And if you went from 50 feet perimeter to 100 feet perimeter, scale factor is times 2. You multiply it by 2. What will the area of the new garden be? It doesn't matter, but when you talk scale factor, what happens to area? It is the scale factor squared bigger. So you take scale factor, square it, the new area is going to be 4 times bigger. 4 times, what was the old area? 150, so 4 times 150 is 600 feet squared. You don't need to know any of the dimensions, you just need to know the scale factor. And if it would have been volume, how much bigger would have been a volume of a box? It is the scale factor cubed, which would have been 8 times bigger. But we're talking about area. And I'm guessing clouds is going to be very much like that. So, Evelyn?
Why do you do 15?
I don't know. Everybody know where 15 is? Oh, there's 15.
Never mind, I wrote the wrong thing.
I'll do it anyways just because. I'm sure you're not the only one. I'm sure people got 15 wrong, correct?
yeah.
Alright. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen,
I wrote it.
what is the goofy thing about this one is usually when we write equations, we put the term that has the x first. Okay, so maybe it would help you if you just moved these to a different place and said 2/3 x minus 3/4 equals 1/12. It's the same thing, as long as you keep the negative with the 3/4. And then how do you solve any equation that looks like this? Well, you get rid of the addition subtraction stuff first, so you should add 3/4. If you add 3/4 to 1/12, common denominator of 12, this is 9/12, right? Times 3 times 3. So you get 10/12. You could reduce it or not, I guess it doesn't really matter. That still equals 2/3 x. And Brant, how do I solve any equation that has a fraction in front of a letter?
By 2/3.
Which is the same as flipping and multiplying. So I flip and multiply by 3/2. 3/2. Cross cancel if you like. It doesn't. 1, 4, 1, 5. And that's where, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to leave your fractions as improper. When you get to the upper level of math, they don't care so much that you change. As long as they're reduced. They need to be reduced, but you can leave them as improper. You did. That's just the way math is. Courage of Westmall.
What is the answer to 1?
I don't know. Again, 396 if I do not deceive me. Evelyn?
Number 19.
Number 19. Boy, it sure sounds like everybody's. Oh, yeah. The problem with number 19, ladies and gentlemen, is you got to keep the difference between you're adding and subtracting things or multiplying and dividing with your negative signs. But what one must know is you have to get this down to one number first, and then that's all going to be over -1. You don't do anything with a -1 until you figure out what all this is. And you must do the, I guess, parentheses first part here. Nothing changes with the -5. You can just take that out of parentheses, because that parentheses does no good. This one, you have a -4 times 3, which is
Negative 12.
-12. This one is a -2. Two negatives make it +2. Now you've done the multiplication part. Now you have to do the adding part from left to right. -5 and -12 is -17. -17 plus 2 is a -15. And then you have two negatives here at the end, so that actually becomes a +15 over 1.
You said the answer is 5.
You said the answer is 5. Someone asked, I said 15 actually.
Yeah, somebody asked.
Oh,
I'll take the fall. What problem?
19.
Yeah, it should be 15. Sorry. You didn't have my glasses on. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Wade Davis, what's your question?
8.
Who?
Number 8.
Number 8. Look at that. How does that happen? Well, the first thing we do is write down the formula for the area of a rectangle, which just so happens to be length times width. So then, area equals, I would put some parentheses. We usually call this the length because it's the longer side. 2 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. What happens here, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Okay, so 2 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Two identical square roots of 2 give you a normal 2, and that normal 2 gets multiplied by the other normal 2 to end up giving you the 4, whatever it is, units squared. You have to think of square roots as being like letters. If you have 2x times x, what do you get? 2x squared. Well, in this case, when you can put them together, you get the 4th power, and you can actually take the square root of them, which this one you can't. What'd you do, Wade? What did you get for an answer?
I thought I meant like 2 different square root of 2, so I did square root of 2 times square root of 2 times square root of 2.
Grant. How does somebody do number 10? Well, watch how easy this is. First of all, when you see inequalities like this, you need to try to solve them. But this one's already solved for you, so it doesn't get any easier than this. Okay? These, if you remember back in the day, this is an and inequality, which means this. When you read this, does anybody remember how you say this? You say,
X is less than,
no, greater than.
X is greater than or equal to -3 and less than 2.
Right. X is greater than or equal to -3 and less than -2. This tells you there's a closed circle for this one. This tells you there's an open circle for this one. It's a matter of this. You have a -3 and you have a 2. Closed circle at the -3. Open circle at the 2. And you just color the line between them. If it said or, if it said or, the difference is when it's or, the lines go away from each other. When it's and, they go to each other. It doesn't. That one doesn't get any easier than that. That's the excitement pretty much never ends. Abram Savage.
Take number 4.
Number 4. I like how we go in order. The diameter of the cone is 6 inches, its height is 4 inches. What is the slant height? Okay, slant height. Usually if you're talking cones and slant height, okay, if you're looking for slant height, you're probably going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem. And you're gonna have to draw your little right triangle here, which means it's gonna look like this. From directly in the middle of the little circle, you are gonna draw a dashed line straight down. And then you're gonna draw a line right here, and this is your right triangle that you are going to use to find the slant height, because you don't know what this is, but it is the hypotenuse of this right triangle I drew there. And what do I know? I know that from here to here is how long? Half of 6, which is 3. I know this because it's the same as this. So then, what is the Pythagorean theorem? You have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Hopefully this is a triple and we don't have to do much work. And if you look up there, 3, 4, hypotenuse would be 5. 5 inches for the slant height. Okay, pretty good. Does that help? Westfall.
How do you get 5?
How do I get 5? There's a good chance I can't do something. Volume of the cone in question number 4. So first of all, one would need the formula for the volume of a cone. Volume of a cone is. Did you have the volume
I
formula?
couldn't find it. I kept on looking in the book and I couldn't find it.
Do we ever put it in our notes? Is it in your notes?
I have it in mine.
Remember, things that come to a point, you just have to divide by 3. It is the volume of a cylinder, which is pi times radius times height, divided by 3. Anything that comes to a point is going to be divided by 3. It's a third the volume if it did come to a point. And really, these are way too easy to miss as well. And it said leave in terms of pi, and please leave it as an improper fraction if that's the way it turns out, because that would just be so much easier. And I believe the cone was what? It had 6 down here from this to this, and the height was 4. That's all you need to know. Filling in the blanks, it's pi. The radius is 3, half of the 6, and the height is 4, and that's all over 3. And the beauty of it is, Abram? Yeah. One of the 3's crosses off with one of the 3's on the bottom. 3 times 4 is 12, and you got Mr. Pi, which inside leave in terms of pi, you can just leave it at that. And since it's volume, you're going to have whatever it was, something cubed. What would it say? Inches cubed. And then somebody better asked about 6 because everybody had the formula. Oh wait. Oh. What is the formula for the lateral surface area of a pyramid? LSA of a pyramid.
Half of formula of base times slant.
Right. Because they're all triangles, you are going to take. It's going to be the perimeter of the base times the height, all divided by 2
Times the slant height.
because they're triangles. Wait, perimeter of base times the slant height? Sorry. Which we use as what? The letter L, the letter S?
S.
Perimeter of the base times the slant height divided by 2. And look, they give you everything you need to know. Slant height is 5. Perimeter of the base appears to be 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. 4 times 6 is 24. Slant height was 5. And you're going to divide that all by 2. Half of that 24 is 12. And 12 times 5 is 60. Area, inches squared. A little bit of what?
Did you multiply both like all 3 numbers together and divide by 3? Can you do the same number?
Multiply all 3 what numbers?
6, 5, 6, and 5 by 3, 60.
Wait, give me say again.
So you would multiply 6 times 6 times 5, and then
6 times 5 is 180.
6 times
Cause it's like the pyramid instead of,
That's,
Sure. Would that work for everything? Does that work for everything or just this one?
I just,
36 times 6. Wait. Why does it work? What if this was 4, 4, and 4? 16 times 4 is what? 64 divided by 3. That doesn't seem to work out right.
maybe just this one.
I don't know if I trust that per se. You can go on that one there. Faith!
For number 14, could you explain what something has to be for it to be proportional?
Probably. It is not proportional. Proportional things have to do this. If you think about the graph of it, okay, it has to go through the origin. Which means when one thing is 0, the other thing has to be 0. And it has to be a straight line. And for something to be a straight line, it must have a constant of proportionality. So let's look at the instance they give you. The time worked and the money earned per hour. Okay? Ask yourself this. If you work 0 hours, do you get paid 0 money? Yes, so it fits this one. Is there some constant that you multiply every time? 1, if you work 1 hour, you multiply that by 12. If you work 2 hours, you multiply it by 12. This is your constant of proportionality. If you graphed it out, 1 hour would be 12, 2 hours would be 24, and you get that straight line. That should have gone through the origin, but I didn't. The side length and perimeter of a square. So, first of all, square, the side and length are both the same. So if you ask yourself, if you put 0 in for the side and the length, do you get, side length, side length. Do you get 0 for the perimeter? Yes. If you put 2 in for the side length, what do you do to 2 to get perimeter? You multiply it by 4. Would you multiply it by 4 every time? Yes. If it was 3, you multiply by 4. So this also would be, both of these are proportional. Time, driving, and distance traveled at 45 miles per hour. Okay? If you drove for 0 hour at 45 miles per hour. So let's graph that. Time and distance at 45 miles per hour, right. If you drove for 0 hours, would you go 0 miles? Yes. 1 hour, you'd go 45. 2 hours, you'd go 90. You're always multiplying by 45. I'm hoping the last one's not proportional. Let's check and see. The side length and area of a square. So here, take a look at this. So, here is our square. And it's the side and it's the area. So if you put 0 in for a side, you get 0 for the area. Yes. Okay. If you put 1 in for the side, what do you get for the area? 1 times 1 is 1, correct? So your constant of proportionality must be times 1 every time you do this. If you put 2 in for that, what's the area of a square? 4. See, this time you multiply by 1, this time you multiply by 2, the next time you'll multiply by some other goofy thing, 3. So it doesn't have, it would not be a straight line if you were graphing this. If you were graphing this, it would look like this. It would start here and then it would go like this. It's not a straight line, it's a curved line. How about that? Now, is that a function, by the way? Some of you yesterday, on yesterday's quiz, I drew this little thing here and you said it wasn't a function. I don't know why, because functions just have to do that little straight line test where if you kept drawing these straight lines up and down, it only crosses there once. And there's no place where that line crosses more than once. It is a function. Functions aren't always proportional. Okay. What else is this? Yes, Carter was.
How do you get 7?
How did I get it? I don't know. Nor do I even know where it's at. A rule for the sequence is a sub n blah 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 find the first terms of the sequence. Here's what I would do, ladies and gentlemen, if you were confused on number 7. First of all, this means nothing. I'd cross that out. Secondly, I would draw myself a table. On top, I would write n. N is the number of the term. So you'd have, they want the first term, they want the second term, they want the third term, and they want the fourth term. You just take that letter n and put it in for the n for each one of these. You're going to have to do it 4 times. If you do this and rewrite this harder, 2 times 1 minus 1. Then you're going to do 2 times 2 minus 1. 2 times 3 minus 1, and 2 times 4 minus 1. You have to do it for each one of the first 4 terms. So what do you get here? 1 minus 1 is 0, 2 times 0 is 0. 2 minus 1 is 1 times 2 is 2. 3 minus 1 is 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3 times 2 is 6. These are the first term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, term number 4. Is that what you got wrong? Did you realize that's wrong?
I didn't get that one wrong.
I don't understand. You don't have any papers on.
I mean,
I don't have any notes written. Did you just call them cold turkey on these?
I do have notes written for the test I can use tomorrow.
That's wrong. How many of those? 16 children. 16. Amelia, what did you do first? Can I ask? Did you do something? Very good. On complex equations, the first thing you have to do is simplify both sides of the equation. You can't do anything with this. It's already simplified for right now. Over here, Amelia says I did the distributive property, which gave you what? 5 times x is?
5x.
And 5 times negative 2 is? And that's what you got? Okay. Now, once you simplify both sides, now you move things by adding and subtracting them from one side of the great divide, so you get all your x's on one side and all your numbers on the other. So, did you do that, Amelia? I want to take this x and move them over here. How do I do that? Well, this is a plus x, so I subtract x because x minus x is nothing. But I have to also do that over here. So now I'm left with a beautiful 4x minus 10 equals 6. Now I want to get rid of the 10 and do the same thing, get them over there. It's a minus 10, so I do the opposite and add 10. Add 10, I get 16, so now I have 4x equals 16. And generally the last thing you do to solve an equation is divide the little x number with its number, letter with its number, divide by 4. Divide by 4, x should equal 4. X should equal 4. Wait. Stop. It has nothing to do with our math class. You've now distracted Brant. Brant?
Are you gonna bring 9?
How do I do number 9? Mrs. Flesh.
Are you missing something?
Jacob.
Uh-oh.
Is this John?
No, Jacob.
Jacob, I'm sorry, I have the wrong brother.
But there are 2 peas in a pod. Jacob likes it when that happens. What do you think? What do you think she's asking your brother for?
I have no idea.
Lunch problem.
Wait, do you have something? Oh, maybe. Wait, why is this not? What's going on here? Where'd it go?
I saw a line.
Wait, you said number 9?
Yes.
Is that the top of this page?
Yeah. Ooh, this is the really confusing one.
Oh, so why didn't you ask it?
Because I got it right.
Oh,
Not hard to.
here's the deal with number 9. And again,
Oh, that is not Mr. Rhodes.
Becky is thinking of 2 numbers. Their sum is 10. Their difference is 6. Here is how you do it. Look, 2 numbers, 2 different numbers. Make one x. X is one number, and y is the other number. And you probably could do this, but it said to graph it. So what does sum mean? You add them together. So x plus y is 10. The difference means you're subtracting. When you subtract the two numbers, you get 6. Write two equations, which is what I did, then graph. Well, ladies and gentlemen, back to graphing. What form are these two equations in? Your choice is slope intercept or standard. They're in standard form. The x and y are both on the same size. How do you solve standard form ones? You solve them by what we call finding the Xy intercepts. Remember this? We even talked about it this year. To do the first one, let's make this one the red one. Cover up the y, x equals 10. That's where it crosses the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cover up the x, that's where it crosses the y-axis at 10. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the graph of all the answers that when you add x plus y, you get 10. Guess what this is? 0 plus 10 is 10. 1 plus 9 is 10. 2 plus 8, 3 plus 7. That gives me that equation. The second one, let's do a brilliant shade of black. Here's where most people go wrong. Cover up the y, x is what? So at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it crosses there. Right?
Yeah.
Cover up the x, here's where you have to be careful. It's not y equals 6, it's negative y equals 6, which means you need to float that negative and put it with the number because you don't want y to be negative. Y equals negative 6. Negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's the graph of all numbers. When you add them together, will give you, or subtract them, will give you 6. Look at 0 minus 6, actually 0 minus a negative 6. Two negatives together give you positive 6. Here is 6 minus 0. So when you graph this, what you are looking for is the place where they cross, which is this. And since you did yours on a real piece of graph paper, they should cross evenly here, which is at 8, 2. X is 8, y is 2. Add 8 plus 2, you get 10. Subtract 2 from 8, you get 6. It is not difficult, yet it is fun. It's exciting. It's math. Yay, it's the reason you get up in the morning. Abraham Savage?
How do you get number 1?
No, not number 1. I already did number 1. I was hoping. Did you draw a box, sir?
No.
Oh, good. So we've done our job then. By the way, when you get older, this is not, if you don't understand it, you really need to do this. If you do understand it, you can do it however you want. But what's happening here, we have the original price minus how much it's on sale for, or what minus this, how much off you're getting, and then you get your final price. Well, the original cost was 100%. How much off do I get, Abram? 20%. Which means, if I get 20% off, what percent am I actually paying? 80%. What is the sale price? $495 was the original price. And you want this number here. You don't need this per se. So it ends up being 100 over 80 equals 495 over some number. This will be the sale price. Quickest way to do that, Wade?
Multiply 8 by 4.
Reduce this fraction, I would. 10 over what? 80 reduces to what quickly?
10 over 8.
Divide them both by 20. 5 over 4. Now you could say what times 5 is 495, but that isn't apparently clear. So the best way to do this, I guess, 5 times n cross products equals 4 times 495. This is kind of complicated, but I can tell you what is 4 times 495? By the way, what would be an easy way to do 4 times 495? If it was 4 times 500, could you do it? What is 4 times 500?
1,000.
2,000. But it's not, it's
Subtract
95. Subtract 20 from it because it's that. What is 2,000 minus 20?
1,900.
1,980 is what you get when you multiply that. And then you just divide by 5. Divide 5 into 1980. I'm guessing you get 3, 15, 48, 9, 45, 36. $396.
Bullseye.
Which, ladies and gentlemen, I understand this is really a long way to do this problem. If you think about this, if you get 20% off, you're paying 80% of the original price, correct? What does the word of mean? If you take $495 and multiply it by 0.8, or 80% of that, you are still going to get $396. But this kind of gives you the gist of how, whatever they are. I am emotionally, physically, and just spiritually exhausted right now. Oh, Abraham. No, I want to do them all. How many more do I have to go?
Not that
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
3 miles, 4 miles an hour, takes 15 minutes. You ride the bike, scooter, 10 miles an hour. How long will it take to take the trip? I am going to guess that this is inverse variation,
Correct.
which would mean you would do this. Let's say this is rate, and this is time. At 4 miles an hour, that's her rate, it takes her 15 minutes. So, Abram and everybody else, because this is inverse variation, the thing on inverse variation, it's like when you have more people doing a job. If you go faster, it works opposite. The faster you go, the less time it's going to take. Everything has to equal those two times each other. 4 times 15 is 60. No matter what I put in any of these boxes, if I walked at 1 mile per hour, what times 1 gives me 60? It would take me 60 minutes to do that. But I'm not. It says I am going at a whopping 10 miles per hour. So 10 times what number gives me 60 minutes? 6. It would have to be 6 minutes. If I walked at a whopping 60 miles per hour, it would take me 1 lousy minute to get to school. Inverse variation. Think about that anytime one thing goes up and the other one goes down. In proportionality, right, relatively. Actually, I can see. Where are we at here?
We did everything on the front side.
Did we?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. We haven't been.
Oh, nobody has questions on 12. You used FOIL. Nobody has a question on 17. Or 20.
Or 18.
Abram, one more. We have time. Let's do it.
17.
This is 17. That's a good question. You're not the only one. I see people get this wrong all the time. Who got this one right? Because I want to know. Carter Altenberg, what's your thought process on the letters? What did you do to get the letters to come up?
I brought the x to the -1 down.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. Here's the deal. Negative exponents are not your friends. But you can always change positive exponents to negative and negative to positive by just flipping where they're at in the fraction. So this x to the -1, you should move it to the bottom, it becomes x to the +1. Okay? So then what you have is, well, let's do the numbers first. 2 goes into 6 3 times. You have 2 y's on top, do you not, y squared? One of those is going to cross off with the 1 y on the bottom. So you're going to be left with a y on top. You've got 3 x's on top, because that's what x cubed is, and you have 2 x's on the bottom, which means you group them in groups of 2. 2 of them will cross off, and you are left with an x on top. So you're left with a 3, an x, and a y on top. Everything on the bottom crossed off. Now, if the x cubed would have been on the bottom and only 2x's up there, then you'd have a fraction with an x left on the bottom, but it doesn't. Everything on the bottom crossed off. You get that. If everything on the top crosses off, though, you have to remember you're left with a 1 on top. You can't leave a blank on top and just forget about it. You can forget about the bottom if everything crosses off because it's a 1. I'm sorry. So sorry. And this, ladies and gentlemen, concludes, we really should. This bottom one down here, just because we can. Again, simplify the bottom. 0.2 times 0.02 is 0.004, is it not? 2 times that is 4, and you have to have 3 decimal places. This, you have to line up the decimal. 0.2 minus 0.02, which means it's 20 minus 2, which is 0.18. Don't forget, it's the bottom goes on the outside into the top, 0.004 into 0.18. Move the decimal 1, 2, 3 places, 1, 2, 3. It's 4 into 180, which is 4, 16, 20, 45. Just want to get that one done. Did I do them all now?
No,
You have a couple left.
But we don't have
you
that.
have 18, 11.
I have a question about something not about our pretest, but it's math. Can I ask it?
As soon as I push